Hi guys, welcome to Caveman Condition. It's my final wrap up from the carnivore diet. For any of you who followed me, I jumped on the carnivore diet because I was trying to work out whether or not my energy levels would be better after catching corona, or COVID I should say. So yeah, this is pretty much my wrap up. I'll give you a quick rundown on what to expect from the diet, the do's and don'ts, or some of them at least. And what I thought of the whole thing. So let's kick on. Now, if you're a first-time subscriber or repeat offender or the rest, do us a favour, hit the subscription button and give us a thumbs up. It helps us do what we're going to do. So who are we? We're the Caveman Condition. We basically filter through the fitness fads to see what works and what doesn't, and try and find a solution that's simple and a little bit more elegant than the overbloated fitness industry gives us. So, expectations. Carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is, as you know, meaty. That's putting it pretty much mildly. Now, there's a couple of ways you can go about it if you've done any of the research. I personally found, for me, I did nose to tail. Some people will just do pure beef. I think it's a bit much and pretty boring. So on the recommendations or the research I did, the general kind of consensus was to eat organ meat as well as the meat, just because one, there's more vitamins and nutrients within that meat, and it will stop you getting deficiencies. Now, in saying that, look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, so who knows if eating the organ meat will do that for you. But as far as I found, look, it definitely adds a little bit more variety, and variety is the spice of life, so definitely something to consider. So, first things first, what you're going to go through. So, the first thing I found is very similar to the keto diet. You go through a sugar detox, but unlike the keto diet where you're having some kind of, veggies, or I should say salads, you're cutting all of that out. So you have no carbohydrates whatsoever. And you take all of that out of your body, and your body kind of goes through a bit of a crisis. Well, that's what I found. And that affects you both physically and mentally. So just be warned, 2 weeks, you're just going to be unstable and pretty unsettled as your body goes through the change. That's what I found. In saying that, after that, everything pretty much kind of evens out at that point. But yeah, 2 weeks, you're definitely going to be a little bit kind of like a raw nerve. So just something to consider for any of you guys who are willing to jump on the boat. The other thing I will say is, look, for me, I ate chicken, beef, fish, pork, some other seafood. It's a very limiting diet. So make sure you got plenty of like herbs, not too much, like a bit of dry herbs, some pepper, a little bit of chili, stuff like that. It does go a long way, and you're going to eat to satiety. So that's the recommendation. Just eat, enjoy it. What you will find is, well, what I found, I should say, is after 3 days, you're going to start to not look at meat the same way. I was pretty happy eating meat all my life, been pretty carnivorous. After 3 days, I was dead set missing a carrot, and I was dead set missing broccoli and all those kind of things. So, you're going to go through that little bit of period too. So at that point, I found, because after 3 days, I'd just been eating pretty much beef, chicken and pork. When I got to that point, I switched to seafood, and that was kind of like a little saving grace, because it was just a whole different variety of food options for me and things I could do. So I would say, look, if you're going to do it, just keep that up your sleeve a bit, just so that, when you do get bored, it's not something that you're having too often, just so you can change it up and keep the interest, because it is a very minimal diet. The other bonuses to this thing is, look, I found generally my energy was pretty even throughout after this kind of the first 2 week period. As far as the helping the kind of the fatigue you get post-COVID, it didn't really do much for that. I was still pretty much up and down, but generally my general energy level wasn't going up and down as it does when you're having kind of, I guess, carbohydrates like breads and stuff like that. That just didn't happen. You're much more even keel, which was kind of nice. The other thing you have to do, and I say this as a warning, dun dun dun, you need a little bit of fiber. So because you're not having any fiber, if you want to go the just meat and water route, then be warned. This is an unforgiving diet. You're going to suffer the fart and follow through. The fiber you need to have, like what I found was I'd have like a tablespoon of psyllium husks. That just firms everything up in the gut, so you won't have any of those issues. So I started from day dot with that. So I didn't have any issues from it. I have heard from other people that they have not been as fortunate. You start to get a bit worried if you get gassy for the first 2 weeks. That does change 2-3 weeks into it. Your body adjusts and you won't have any of those issues. But for the first period, as your body's just shedding all the water weight and all those kind of things, it can be a little bit of a harrowing experience, so I'm told. But have a little bit of fibre, you won't have that problem. So, final thoughts on the whole thing. Look, cons. The diet's hard. There's no getting around it. It is extremely hard. It's extremely minimal. It's unless you kind of prepare in a certain way, you're gonna be confronted by a few things, especially if you don't eat organ meat or you've got issues with seafood. You're going to get bored real quick. So that's something to think about. The other thing is, as I said, the detox period is fairly jarring. So if you're already kind of suffering, as a lot of people are through the COVID period, I don't know if this would be the right time to do this diet. It's you need to kind of be in a slightly happy place, I think, when you start this off. So it's just something I would recommend to people. Like, you got to be a bit prepared for that. The other thing is it can be expensive. Now, if you're doing the whole grass-fed, grass-finished beef and all the rest, and you're getting wild game, if you can get it, then you're paying kind of, top dollar for your beef. For me, look, I just got store-bought beef and all the rest. It was all fresh, nothing processed. Long term, I would just say I'd be more concerned about the effects of saturated fat, because you are eating so much saturated fat. On average, I was eating, I think, close to a kilo, so around 2.2 pounds of meat a day. It sounds like a lot, but in reality, when you're having, say 2 or 3 eggs, a couple rashers of bacon for breakfast, and then maybe a steak for lunch, and then, dinner you might have 3 or 4 sausages or what have you, it ends up kind of adding up pretty quick as far as the weight. And because you're not having those other things, the other kind of carbohydrates, it doesn't stick to the inside of your body unless you're having liver. I will take that out. Eat too much liver, it's like putting a cork in your body. I just found that when I ate just meat, it's kind of a weird hollowness to it. It's kind of, you feel full, but it's a different type of feeling full. It's like if you eat bread or pastas, where you kind of get that thing of feeling like everything's stuck to your insides, and you feel quite you feel really, really full and a bit bloated. That just doesn't happen, right? So that's one of the things I will say. As far as the vitamin deficiency, look, there are a handful of people who've been doing this diet for in excess of 5-10 years. It is a fairly new diet in the sense that I just don't see a lot of the research that a lot of the other like Mediterranean diets have. So the research behind it isn't there as far as I can see so far. That doesn't mean someone isn't putting it together, but there are very reputable people like doctors and so on and so forth who have been doing this. And there are people who've had autoimmune deficiencies and diseases who've taken on this this form of eating, and apparently it's cured the issues they've had. So look, take from it what you would. So positives. Food prep is a breeze. Steak, pan, butter. Done. Anything, pan, butter. Done. If you're going to be, doing something like, sometimes I got into a lot of broths. Do broths. Again, gives you variety. Lovely alternative. Really, really kind of good way to absorb nutrients and all that stuff. So lots of broths. Food prep simple. You're either going to boil it, grill it, fry it, bake it. That's pretty much all it is. You do have to be a bit more prepared as far as if you are going to have snacks and things like that, because the idea is you don't eat processed food. No processed meats, no salamis, none of that deli stuff. So The only tip I'd say there is having something like making batches of meatballs or something like that. Great. Just you can eat them as you go, no problem. They're tasty. Really, really simple. The other thing I'll say is a lot of the daily aches and pains I put up with just disappeared. So discomfort in my back, issues in my feet and my shoulder all disappeared. So take from that what you will as well. But I did find just being on the diet, I just didn't have it. It seemed to pull back, I guess, some of the general inflammations within the body. That's my guess at it anyway. I did find I slept better, which was also positive. Energy was pretty level throughout the day. On the whole, because of, I guess, the lack of interest in food, stopped snacking, which was great. The only thing I will say is I did have some digestive issues just from eating so much meat. So while that was a negative, the positive was I drank a crap load of water. I was trying to drink at least 5 litres a day, but on average I was drinking about 3.5 to 4 litres. So that did me well, I have to say. Had none of that general bloatedness you get from eating. So afterwards, where you've kind of eaten anything, that just doesn't exist. So for me anyway. So that was also really kind of quite nice. You just don't feel that way. It's a nice thing not to have to deal with after eating. So look, that's pretty much the ins and outs of it. If you are going to do it, look, as I said, do your research. There's stuff online. There's diets you can follow for 30 days. Make sure that you're prepared and be kind to yourself. Speak to a doctor. Make sure you're ready for it and have fun with it. So that's my only thing. So yeah, that's me signing off from the Carnivore Diet.